So we're first going to start off with a little review from lesson 5.3, day 1, which is all about those first two parts of the fundamental theorem of calculus. And so here's a little review of FTC part 2. So I want you to take a moment to pause the video and see if you can remember doing some antiderivative work from yesterday. And so try the best you can, and we'll go over these here in a few seconds. So we don't have a reverse product rule yet. And so some of you recognize that in order to find the antiderivative, let's really FOIL that out and use the reverse power rule. And so if I FOIL that out, I get 6v squared. Looks like plus 15v minus another 2v would be plus 13v. And then looks like the last term would be minus 5. And so if I jumped right to taking antiderivative work, for the first term, 6v squared, the antiderivative ends up being 2v cubed. Antiderivative of 13v ends up being 13 halves v squared. And the antiderivative of 5 is 5v. We got that straight line notation. Showing the evaluation part is important. So if I sub in 4 wherever there's a v, and then if I sub in 0, notice that ends up being 0 because I'm running out of room here. But that first term, if you evaluate it out, you should have got a total answer of 212. So the area under the curve would be 212. And so for the next one, formula work here. If you remember, the antiderivative of secant tan ends up being secant theta itself. And so we have that straight bar notation showing the evaluation step, subbing in pi over 4 first, upper minus your lower bound, and then using your unit circle to evaluate. Secant at pi over 4 would be the reciprocal of cosine at pi over 4. And so the reciprocal of cosine at pi over 4 ends up being 2 over square root 2 minus secant 0 would be the reciprocal of cosine at 0, which is 1. And so we can keep our answer like this if you want, but if you rationalized the first term, square root 2 over 2, I think we get square root of 2 minus 1 for a more simplified answer. But hopefully you got both of these as a little review from 5.3 day 1. And so today we're going to continue lesson 5.3, looking at FTC part 1 as a graphical interpretation. So today we're going to look at really looking at this function as an area so far function. So our integrals today are going to be defined by functions, and a lot of times today you're going to see that function defined as x, where x could be anything. And so we have this warm-up to start with. So it's find the values of g of 0, g of 1, all the way through g of 6. And so if I sub in 0 for x, then the first part would be finding the area under the curve from 0 to 0, which technically that's a property. Anytime you have the same bounds, there is no area to find. And so the first answer, g of 0, ends up being 0. But if I sub in 1 now for x, for the upper bound, now you're finding the area from 0 to 1. And so the area from 0 to 1 looks like to be a triangle. And if we did 1/2 base times height, looks like we get an answer of 1 there for g of 1. And so g of 2 would just be simply adding, looks like a rectangle on top of that. And the rectangle ends up being an area of 2. And so adding that to the previous answer of 1, I get an overall area of 3 for g of 2. And then g of 3, I'd be adding another 2 to that, so it'd be 5. G of 5, you'd be basically finding the area from 0 to 5. So in that case, it'd be adding a quarter of a circle there. And so I'd take the previous answer of 5 and add a quarter of a circle with the radius of 2. So it looks like I'm adding pi there. And then lastly, g of 6, looks like you're subtracting off, because it's under the curve here, the area of 1. And so my overall answer of g of 6 would be 4 plus pi in the end. Here's a little investigation I want you guys to try on your own. It says let the capital F be defined as the area from 2 to x. And so here's where you got to kind of pay attention, because the lower bound is 2. So that means you're starting to accumulate area from 2. So when you're evaluating these, think of always starting at 2. So in the first case, if I were to find f of 0, you'd be finding the area from 2 to 0, which, remember, doesn't really make sense to us because the lower bound has to be lower than the upper bound, and so you might have to flip that. So try your best, work these out, and see if you can order these 6 evaluations, f of 0 through f of 5, from largest to smallest. Good luck. So some of you noticed that the overall biggest and largest value that capital F could possibly be would happen right at f of 2, because at f of 2, there is no area to find. You're finding the area from 2 to 2. So f of 2 ends up being 0. That happens to be the largest. So if I sorted it largest all the way to smallest, f of 2 would be first. And then everything else is negative. And so if I looked at f of 3, that's going to have a negative area. You can probably get a rough estimate using that value of negative 1/2 there. So if you look at that as a triangle, that'd be an area of negative 1/2 times 1/2, which would be negative 1/4 there as an area. If I looked at f of 4, it's going to be more negative than f of 3, and f of 5 is going to be even more negative than f of 4. And if I work backwards this way, f of 1, that's a triangle that looks to be, I guess we can estimate a height of 2 there, and that's a little overestimation of the actual height there. But if that's a base of 1 and a height of 2, 1/2 base times height ends up getting an area of negative 1 there. And then looking at the biggest area here, looks like that's going to be the bigger negative area. And so it looks like f of 0 would have to be the smallest. F of 1 would be the next smallest. F of 5 would be the next smallest after that. F of 4, and then all the way to f of 3. And so I believe this should have been the correct order from largest to smallest. So the main part of today's lesson, we're going to look through some group work type questions, looking at this function defined as an area so far. And these are all questions that we've already answered in section 4.3, so looking at when this area function is increasing, decreasing, when it's concave up, concave down, where local mins and maxes are, maybe absolute max and mins. But really this entire lesson is looking at one group work that you can find in the module, as well as you can find others like this in the module if you wanted extra practice on this. But here we have a function, capital F. It's defined, notice, at -2. And so when we're answering questions today, we always have to think about starting at -2 to accumulate area. And so the first question simply says, find all the zeros of capital F. Well, if capital F is defined as the area function, then we're really finding when the area is equal to 0. And so obviously right away at -2, because there is no area defined, that would be a quick 0 that we can always have. And then notice as you progress left to right here, so as you accumulate area here, notice there's another place where it's 0. In fact, it looks like it will also cancel out and be 0 right at +2. And so there is 2 zeros here, x equals -2 and x equals +2. It says now identify all the intervals where capital F is increasing and decreasing. Again, remember we're starting at -2 here, but remember for a function to be increasing or decreasing, in section 4.3, the increasing decreasing test said that if the derivative is positive, that's when it's increasing, and if the derivative is negative, that's when it's decreasing. We used a sign chart in section 4.3. Well, the derivative by FTC part 1, so if you think about that, FTC part 1 is the derivative of an area function. The derivative, if I sub in that trick, the derivative ends up being just f of x. And so when we're looking at the derivative, notice the function's defined as f of x. So we're really looking at the function itself. When is the function positive and when is the function negative? When is it above the x-axis? When is it below the x-axis? And so to determine where it's increasing, we want to look to where this function's above the x-axis. And it looks like it's between 0 and 2 and 2 to 6. We can put that overall as increasing, 0 to 6, because of the fact that if you think about this as an area function, it's negative, it's negative, it's negative. It starts to become positive, 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 and then it continually becomes positive after that as you work left to right. And so since you're continually to accumulate more area after 2, we can put that all together as one interval. So it's increasing from 0 to 6. And where it would be decreasing would be where it's below the x-axis. And so notice in this case, and it looks like this happens between -4 and -2 where it's below the x-axis, and also notice between -2 and 0. And so we can put that overall as from -4 to 0. And so this is where it would be decreasing, and from 0 to 6 is where it would be increasing. So the next question says identify all intervals where the capital F is concave down and concave up. But remember from section 4.3, we know it's concave up and concave down if the second derivative is negative and if the second derivative is positive. Well, if the first derivative by FTC part 1 is the function itself, so this line that we see, then the second derivative would be slope. And so if you think about second derivative, it'd be the derivative of that line, which then you'd be looking at slope. And so when is the slope negative? Notice it's decreasing between, looks like, -2 and -1. Also from 1 to 2. And lastly, from 4 to 6. Where is the slope positive for being concave up? Well, that would be all the other intervals. So notice that happens at from -4 to -2. It also increases from -1 to 1. And then lastly, looks like 2 to 4. So when you're talking concavity of an area function, really you're looking at the slope of the function that's provided on the graph. So this question has 2 parts. It says identify all local extrema and then where are the absolute max and min points. And so if we look at the first question, identifying local max and mins, remember we used the first derivative test to determine whether it's a local max or min. And the first derivative test said that if f prime changes from a negative to a positive, that would tell us local min. And if it changes from positive to negative, that tells us it's a local max. And so if you're looking at the derivative, again, you're seeing this function itself where it changes from a positive value to a negative. And where does that happen? Notice it happens right at, there's one place right at 0. That's where it changes from a negative area to a positive area. And so we'd say there's a local min at x equals 0. And so there'd be only one local extrema, and that's a local min right at x equals 0. Now for the absolute max and mins, remember anytime you see the word absolute max, absolute minimum, that's when we need to use the closed interval method in order to prove whether it's an absolute max, absolute min. And remember for the closed interval method, we test our endpoints, find the area at the endpoints, and then we test our critical points when the derivative is 0 or where it's undefined, and we make a big table. So in this case, we're looking at what the area is at each of those points, and remember you're always starting at -2 here because that's where capital F is defined. And for the critical points here, if we test the critical points, that's when the derivative is 0 undefined. Well, the derivative is 0. It looks to be at -2. It's 0 also at 0, and it's 0 at 2. And for your endpoints, that's obviously from -4 to 6. And so let's find the area at each of those points. So if I sub in -2, obviously we get an area of 0 there. If I sub 0 in, it's going to be negative. In fact, the area from -2 to 0 ends up being -pi/2, or -1/2 pi. At 2, it ends up being 0. Cancel each other out. At -4, here's where you got to be kind of careful, because when you're looking at -4, you're finding the area from -2 to -4. which should be the same as the opposite of -4 to -2. If we flip that using our property of integral there. And so if I find the area from -4 to -2, that's a triangle. 1/2 base times height ends up giving an area of, looks like 2. And so since it's below the x-axis negative, but since we're working backwards, we're going to treat it as a positive 2. And then at 6, really it's 0 up until 2, so it's really just adding on that triangle right there at the tail end. That happens to be 1/2 bases, looks like 4. Looks like the height is 3, and so if I multiply that together, 1/2, 4 times 3 ends up being 6. And so looking at our list, we'd say there's an absolute min at the lowest point of x equals 0. And then we'd say there's an absolute max at the highest value you could ever get, which is at x equals 6. And so anytime you're doing absolute max and mins, we apply the closed interval method. Anytime you're finding local max and mins, we use the first derivative test. So last couple questions here. So here again is defined. Now these are kind of some separate questions that we're going to ask. It says find f prime of 1, f prime of 4, f double prime of 1, f double prime of 5. So if you're looking at the first one, f prime of 1, well, the derivative, remember by FTC part 1, the derivative ends up being the function that you see. And so if this is the function, this is the derivative of capital F, then f of 1 would simply be looking at what's the output at 1. Well, it's 1. And so our answer for the first one's 1. And so f prime of 4, again, would be just looking at what's the output at 4. It looks like it's at 3, so my answer for the second one's 3. And so when you're looking at second derivative, remember second derivative is the slope of the function you see. And so the first question says f double prime of 1 means find the slope at 1. Well, notice that's a max point there, and the tangent line has a slope of 0 there, and so f double prime of 1 would be 0. And then the last one, f double prime of 5, would be looking at what's the slope at 5. And if I estimate the slope there, it looks like you're going down 3, right 2, and so the slope would be -3/2 there. So before I send you guys off to work on the rest of your homework problems, I would like you to complete this formative assessment before the end of today. So try your best. You're going to upload your work for these 2 problems, and then when you're done with this, you can work on the homework for the rest of the day. And you're just going to be continuing the same problems from the day before on section 5.3, but now you should be able to finish all of them. Have a great day.